Brilliance Audio.
The Blunder by Mutt-Lon. Translated by Amy B. Reed. Performed by Sara Powell. To those who are overwhelmed and tempted to give up, and to those who overwhelm them. Author's note for the English translation. The Blunder is a work of fiction layered over an actual historical event. Dr. Euge Jamot was a French physician who led a campaign to combat trypanosomiasis, sleeping sickness, in Cameroon between 1922 and 1931. The archives confirm that his medical organization was responsible for a wide-scale case of medical malpractice, a blunder that led to hundreds of cases of blindness in villages across the region of Bafia. In my novel, I draw on this unbelievable fact to set my plot in motion, with fictional characters such as my two female protagonists, Damienne Bourdin and Edoa, alongside individuals who played central roles in the historical moment. During this time, after World War I, Cameroon was a territory under control of the League of Nations, the precursor to the United Nations, with Great Britain and France administering separate parts of the former German colony and serving as de facto colonizing powers. Our story plays out in the French region. The colonists lived alongside local populations composed of both Bantus and Pygmies. Throughout this tale, the voices and expressions we hear, and the actions described, reflect the characters' points of view, how they understood their roles in the African colonies in that time period, when racism and prejudice were codified. The word native, indigène in French, was a legal classification for the local populations, and the white colonizers were firmly convinced of their own superiority and of France's civilizing mission. However, there were also ethnic hierarchies at play among the local people, with the Bantus seeking to assert their superiority over the Pygmies. As a result, readers should feel a certain discomfort with different episodes in the novel, but that reflects my efforts to faithfully reproduce the context of this moment in Cameroon's past. Mutt-Lon, September 2021. The Return. Damienne Bourdin's first priority, as she emerged from the airport, was to track down the Pygmy guide who'd saved her life in 1929. She hadn't set foot in Cameroon for 32 years and wondered if it might be a waste of time to look for him. Most of the protagonists of The Blunder were no longer living, and the guide might have died too, like Dr. Jamot and Chief Atangana. It was important she find out, because if that strange fellow was still alive, Damienne wouldn't dare return to the scene of the revolt without him. The François she was leafing through mentioned a monument in honor of Dr. Jamot in front of the Ministry of Public Health, and also the facilities he'd left behind in 1931, now a hospital bearing his name. In the taxi on the way to the hospital, she kept her nose glued to the window. How Yaoundé had changed. There was asphalt in the city centre, electricity, a big traffic circle, and people weren't wandering around in loincloths. Some blocks of houses still had mud walls, but only a few were thatched or had roofs covered in straw or woven raffia mats. Buildings were going up, Peugeots and Renaults racing around them every which way like ants. Drivers shouted through open windows as they passed each other on either side, but Damienne didn't mind the chaos. She was just relieved she wouldn't have to walk the whole way to Bafia this time. The area around the hospital was completely transformed. Not one landmark from her time there survived. Still, Damienne recognized the hospital itself right away. She noticed as she approached that no additions had been made. At most, they'd slapped a coat of lime on a few walls. Inside, she found that Dr. Jamot's apartment had become the radiology department, and the room where she'd spent the night was now a pulmonologist's office. Since sleeping sickness had been largely eradicated, the Jamot Hospital focused on psychiatry and fighting tuberculosis. There were sickly people with emaciated faces everywhere. Damienne offered a prayer
Sample complete. Ready to continue?